Hello everyone and welcome back to the second episode of the All Four Wheels podcast. Sorry it's taken a little while to get this out, but we've been very busy working on lots of other things. Anyway, I'm Joel.
And I'm Charlie.
And today we're going to elaborate a little bit further on a YouTube video that I put out just a few days ago now with my new and very accidental purchase. It's a 2004 red Audi TT.
Yeah.
And have you seen the video?
Yeah, I've seen the video. I watched it this morning, actually.
What do you think?
Obviously, you FaceTimed me at the time when you were struggling, panicking about the purchase. But yeah, I think it's quite a rare, kind of ridiculous find, to be honest. For 400 quid, you'd expect it to not be drivable, or to have some serious damage to it. But it looks, at the minute, like it's all in okay working order.
To be honest, you hit it on the head, really, because I was so terrified. Not only because basically, Katie and I, my wife and I, had just that very week and that very day consolidated some of our debts, which we've been paying off, and I've been paying off for years. And that very same day, because lots of people were commenting on the video, like, I think I said in the video, I'm absolutely terrified when I was doing the auction. And I was. And people were saying, well, why are you terrified? Because it's only, 800 quid in the end.
But you just cleared,
but the reason I was terrified is because we'd literally just cleared some stuff off that we'd been really working on for so long. And I was going to have to call Katie and say, hi, I've accidentally spent £1,000 on something that is ugly and doesn't even work.
Yeah,
and I was terrified about having to do that. So for the people on the video that were wondering why I was sort of seemingly overreacting, I was actually genuinely concerned. The good news is, in hindsight, because the car actually turned out to be a little bit of a gem so far, touch wood, I didn't actually need to be terrified, but it was an accident.
Yeah, like, I remember you called me literally like 4 hours afterwards saying, you kind of, I'd imagine everyone does on certain things, you click on it, like add to basket, thinking it's going to ask you to, deposit money or, sign in at least, and it just accepted the bid. And you're kind of thinking, well, hold on, I haven't put any money down, I haven't put, do they even think I'm going to pay for it? Or yeah.
That's the thing. It's a bit like, imagine if you went onto Amazon and you were searching for something, and then you just click on the page and it buys it. It was a bit like that. Yeah. In fairness, it's not Copart's fault at all. Yeah. I was stupid.
You did.
I did have an account. I paid 100 quid for the year. You have to pay for an account, so I had paid for it. Yeah. And so because I'd paid for Copart, the customer, I did a Copart subscription thinking that I could go to a Copart and look around the cars, and that would make for some really interesting content. But only after buying the subscription, I realised it was all remote.
Right.
You can actually call up Copart and someone will FaceTime you and show you around the car. But yeah, so really I was naive, because not only did I naively buy the Copart account, I went onto the listing and clicked max bid, just assuming that it might say, are you sure? Or please add funds to your account. Yeah,
exactly.
Because obviously
some sort of deposit, or
Yeah, like if you ever do an eBay auction, and I've been stung by this. Someone can bid £1 million for your car, but basically, I don't think they're legally obligated, and eBay will do nothing if they decide not to pay. So I've had several auctions where they've ended. It's a price that I'm quite happy with, but then you try and contact the buyer, and you hear nothing.
Yeah.
And do you remember that time that I sold my 7 Series and I came to Heathrow and you were there?
Oh, yeah, the guy just never turned up.
Yeah. So I
was there for work and I came and met you, and you'd been sat there for about 6 hours already.
Yeah. I literally, you guys, I think I told this story. I did tell this story on my YouTube channel. This is going back about a year now, but I'll go into it very quickly here if you guys haven't heard about this. So I had that BMW 7 Series, the V12 one, which everyone loved, including myself. It's one of those cars that got away, actually. I shouldn't have sold it, but at the time it made sense to.
That was the car that I remember we drove when we used to work, me and Joel. We went out in it, and people would turn around thinking it's like an Aventador. Yeah. Because it was obviously straight piped. It just sounded mental with a V12, and then people would turn around and be like, hey? They'd be confused as to what it is.
That car was the funniest thing, because if you drive around in a Lamborghini or an Audi R8 or something, people look and then give you that sort of wow face.
Yeah.
But when I had the 7 Series,
shocked face,
people would look, give you the wow face because they're expecting to see a Murcielago or something, and then it would turn into this shocked face of disgust and disappointment that it was actually just a big blue BMW barge.
Boat, yeah.
But anyway, the story goes that I was selling that car for whatever reasons on eBay. I thought that would be a nice way to do it because I could promote it to my viewers and everyone might be able to have a little bid. It might drum up the price a bit, and that's all great. Everyone's happy. And yeah, anyway, it did go for a okay price. And the chap on eBay that had supposedly bought it said he was in Scotland, but he was super excited he'd bought the car. I think it was Scotland, or it might be Manchester.
It was Scotland.
He was really excited to have bought the car. We exchanged many sort of messages about how he really enjoyed the channel. We were quite specific, so it wasn't just like a scam. He definitely knew who I was. And, he said, okay, I'll book the flight tonight, shared with me the flight number.
And the trouble is as well, like, he then said something like he didn't get on that flight, but there's about 17 flights from Edinburgh in a day that come into Heathrow.
Right.
So you were thinking, is he on... because he's not texting or replying, is he on the next one? And then it was just like, how long do you give it?
I think the first suspicion I had is when he said, I'm on the something like, say, 14:35, and then at Heathrow, the arrivals board didn't correlate, like there wasn't a 14:35. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt, thinking, maybe he'd put in the time for the Glasgow flight or something. But anyway, long story short, I'd got the car all cleaned, I'd got the private registration off, got it all ready for sale for this guy to come pick up on this agreed day. I'd gone to Heathrow, I'd paid for parking, and he never showed up. After many, many messages, calling the number that he had there, I absolutely never heard anything from him.
Yeah.
And I did make a video on that, which was, did quite nicely on views, so and probably paid for my day, really. But
I guess that this auction place that you've just bought this car from, they just take a no messing around approach. You've bid on it. Unfortunately, that's now your responsibility to pay.
Exactly. Your bids are literally they're legally binding. Yeah. So I obviously, as soon as I'd made this bid, before I even started filming those shots for that video, I was researching Copart, looking at their T's and C's, and it's very clear throughout that as soon as you press the bid button, it doesn't matter what amount it is, whether you own, whether you have that much money or not, that's your responsibility if you win the car. So I was holding on to a string of hope that because it was only 475 quid, that someone else would bid on it, but obviously, we all know what happened.
Wouldn't accept your offer, but
right. So
he was just happy to get rid of it, or they were.
No one bid on it, so I won it, and I thought, oh god. But then I had like another slither of hope where it said that his reserve was actually 900, and I thought, oh great, there's no way he's going to come down to 475. But he did. He came down to 600, which I rejected, and then he just accepted the 475. But can I just say, in hindsight, I'm not sad about it. No. I really love that car, and I cannot believe I've never experienced one before. No. I wish we'd had the chance to do it before.
Yeah.
We filmed this podcast, but you need to have a drive in it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. It's really fun.
We were talking in our last episode, obviously, about 3-4 grand. What do you guys think we should buy for a ring car? Maybe, just maybe, we might have stumbled across something by accident.
Yeah, in fairness, I ended up with an Audi TT because it was in my saved cars on Copart.
It was a different engine, wasn't it, that you were looking for? And
yes, what I would have liked is the 1.8 225 or the BAM engine, which is basically, I think, my car, but with a bigger turbo and an extra intercooler. I think that's the main difference, and better brakes and the twin exhaust. And it's a better car. And it's quattro as well. My car is front-wheel drive,
right? Okay.
Which is interesting, and it took me a few days to work that out. It was really hard to work out, and it was also hard to work out whether it was the 150 or the 180 horsepower one.
Because you got no information with it.
Well, no, I have actually got all the information with it, but it just says 1.8 everywhere. Oh. I could work out it was two-wheel drive from driving it. Yeah. You dump the clutch and the front wheels spin, and you realise. But I only just found out it's the 180 from looking at the original sticker on the car and dissecting, or what's the word? Sort of decoding the letters and numbers on there. So what we've got, I say we because you're right. We were talking about getting some sort of track car, half jokingly, half seriously, because we knew we didn't really have any money for it. And so TTs were sort of my suggestion, because for next to no money, you can get good ones, and they're fast, and they're manual, and I think a great car.
Exactly. But, and then it looks forward into terms of now with this, if we take it and, we know that we need a few bits doing, maybe, that can be our project where, swapping parts over and actually putting newer parts in that actually might bring it up a bit to...
I did have a message from someone on Instagram this morning. They're a performance brake company, and they said, "Hi, can we send you some free brakes for your Audi TT?"
Yeah, so it's already started.
So maybe we should. So what I'm going to do. So now that we do have this TT, it does run and drive. I'm actually quite fond of the little thing, despite it not being this 225 BAM one, right? Which is the one that I wanted. Okay, it's down 45 horsepower. However, because it's not four-wheel drive, it's light.
Right.
I think I read that the dry weight, or the whatever the lowest weight for the empty weight, dry weight, no fluids in it, 1280 kilos, which is actually really light by today's standards. But the 225 BAM was something like 1450. So although it's 45 horsepower down, it's 150 kilos lighter, and it genuinely, I'm not joking, mate. It says on paper, I think 7.8 to 60. It feels like a 5-second car. It's hilarious. It's so fun to drive. You're going to love it.
We would, you would just take things out if it got to that point, wouldn't you? There's bits in it that you could fiddle around with. Depends what you want to use it for. We'll have to figure out and see. But
so I've booked it.
I know you're going to fall in love with it and not want to ever do anything to it.
No. All I want to do is spank that around the Nurburgring. I've booked it. Well, I've put a request in for a service next week.
So we'll get a better picture of.
And my plan is to take it to actual Audi, like an actual Audi dealer, because I think that would be quite interesting to see what they say. So I've asked for a free health check and a full service. It's had things like the cam belts done twice already. So it's and the crazy thing is, it's got a mental history. It's probably, I didn't count, but I roughly counted about £15,000 worth of work it's had on its life. So and just like non-essential work, it's really been looked after. The 600 quid was done on paint, not a few years ago.
Normally, you would just leave it and not bother.
It's been owned by a woman from New, and then a doctor for about 10 or 11 years, and then me.
Yeah.
Or there's another owner somewhere between 2022 and now.
So not very long.
But basically 2 owners and me. I'll get it serviced. Hopefully it's all straight, and then I think I'd probably have enough confidence in it for us to drive to Germany in it.
Yeah.
And then we can go to the Nurburgring. We can do some autobahn stuff.
See how it holds up.
I mean, this would be honestly the perfect car for you to do your first Nurburgring lap in, because it's not slow. Like, it's not too slow. Yeah. It's got. I've been driving it around thinking, oh, would this go up the hill at that corner? And I'm like, yeah, it would. It would. It feels like my Z4 in terms of power. It's not. It's a bit slower. But anyway, it's not too slow. It's very easy to drive. It's kind of leery because it's this front wheel drive, and it's almost a bit too much power for just front wheel drive. So round corners, it sort of bounces on the exit if you're flooring it. It's kind of fun. I think actually this could work out. We take it to the Nurburgring if we can, and then maybe we do like some laps, and then maybe take the rear seats out. I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff.
We can do stuff while we're there. Go, actually, you know what? We want to make this a bit faster, or play it by ear.
The only thing I will say about it, from a sort of driving perspective, and I'm going to make next week at some point, I'm going to film like a first drive review for my main YouTube channel. So look out for that. But the line I kept thinking, it's one gear away from being perfect because it's a 5-speed.
Okay.
So at 70 miles an hour, it's at about 3,000 RPM.
You just wanted to drop it down to 6th and just relax. But it's
I keep reaching the gear stick and going for 6th, but it's not there. Because I was driving down the motorway yesterday, and it had about 75, 80 indicated, and it's just like and the exhaust might be slightly blown on it as well. So it's just, that's the only thing. But come on, I mean, 475 quid this car was. Yes, I had to pay the fees and stuff, but that's what the car cost. It is. I can't complain.
Well, the bid before on your YouTube video was like a little Yaris thing, wasn't it? had lots of I quickly read this. No, but it was that one for $3,000.
Yeah.
And you're thinking it had loads of blemishes. It said in the description. And
well, do you know what's funny is I was here yesterday because I was filming a video cleaning the car, which I think will be out on the channel tomorrow, but we'll have to see it. It's going to be out soon. I was cleaning the car, and a chap came over from across the road to come and see what was going on, but also just to compliment the car, saying that's a really nice motor. He literally said that's a really nice motor. I said, oh yeah, no, it's just one that I've bought to sort of spruce up and move on. He said, oh right, what are these going for? I said I paid £475 for it, and he took him about 30 seconds to pick his jaw up from the floor. I mean, he was an older chap. I don't think he was particularly into cars. I mean, he showed me his car. It was a Dacia Sandero, so take with that what you will. But yeah, I'm happy with it, mate.
Yeah,
I'm actually really happy with it. And yes, I have cleaned it now, and it looks $1 million.
I bet you couldn't wait to just get your hands on cleaning that because it looked a bit.
It was so good, and I actually got a new pressure washer. Well, I got a new snow foam lance, and it's proper really snow foam.
Give it a shampoo.
But I parked it up last night at home between the beige Jaguar and our silver Nissan Pixo. And it was just there, and you could just see the roof line across the top of the cars. I was like, that's a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Red Ferrari. I've got a Ferrari for £475.
This is what I love about Joel, is that these little gems that he finds that he just suddenly falls in love with, that most people would just be like, I wouldn't even bat an eyelid, and then he just, falls in love. Like the Jag you were saying the other day, I slate it, and then you were like, even you admitted when you first bought it, the front of it, you thought, why would anyone want that? And now you've thought, you know what, that's a really nice looking car.
I think maybe I convince myself easily of things, don't I? I mean, I honestly, I truly was terrified and praying that I wouldn't win this car, now to being, I'm so happy I bought that.
Yeah.
And, it could blow up tomorrow, but then I've got to remind myself that if it does, okay, I've lost £800.
It's nothing, no biggie. It's no biggie, yeah. I'm sure you can sell some parts or something.
Yeah.
But something else you wanted to talk about this week actually was when you phoned me, you just actually won the bid or the car had just arrived that the Formula One was cancelled this weekend.
I saw that. Yeah, it was you that told me, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I saw stuff on the internet a few days before about how it could potentially be cancelled because of this and that. I thought it was quite crazy they left it to the Wednesday when it's obviously, hospitality and everything kicks off Thursday, Friday, really. So
my initial reaction to you telling me that was, I thought firstly you were joking, and then I thought, well, sorry, especially because it's this late in the day, you can't just cancel an F1 event. The teams and everything, they've all planned for it, but all of the punters that have flown out there, booked flights, hotels at an extortionate price, they've made the effort to go there, all of this stuff. But then I looked into it and realised it was because of a natural disaster.
Exactly. And there is people, I think they've lost their lives, etc. So we can't, dwelling on the racing when actually there's things going on there that's quite serious. But I just think obviously they might have seen that coming a few days before. It's quite late, isn't it, to just cancel something, I think.
Well, I don't blame them, because I think obviously they had this weather, and then it might have only been on Wednesday where it got to the point where they had to cancel the event. So my point was that initially I was furious and thought, this is ridiculous, just classic FIA, put out a black flag when there's a bit of rain, and now they're cancelling a whole event because of a bit of rain. But then I did look into it and I realised, okay, this is quite serious, and of course they had to cancel it, and that is absolutely fine. It's disappointing from a fan's perspective.
We love that Imola as a track, don't we? We're not too fond of all these new kind of street Miamis and all that. We're not really too interested in that. We love the old historic circuits. This circuit was designed to be what it is, perfect. It's a racist circuit, whereas Miami, I'm not dwelling in saying it's a bad circuit or whatever, but that's more. I do feel like the whole Miami F1 is more of a hospitality invitation kind of event. They've kind of just made a track together and whatever.
There are lots of echoes around saying that obviously, what's been happening with F1 since Drive to Survive is it's been gaining popularity, and obviously the FIA and Formula One as a whole want to capitalise on that. And I think the introduction of these American Grand Prix, of course, it's to...
We've got Vegas coming up, haven't we?
Exactly. So it is to generate revenue, but I think it is actually catering for an audience that is now in the States that wasn't perhaps there before Netflix and Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
But on Imola, yes, it is a massive shame, because I think it's obviously a beautiful circuit, and it's also quite interesting how it's nestled sort of within a village. But it's an infamous circuit as well, obviously, where Senna lost his life. It's been changed since then. But when Charlie is not flying around the world and I'm not filming YouTube videos, we're quite often playing the Formula 1 game on our Xboxes. And we
all fall on Imola in Austria, pretty much.
Imola in Austria. What is it? I do like Monaco, but it's because what I can do on Monaco, because it's such a narrow track, is I can just brake test all of the AI cars.
Yeah, and then they just sit behind you and nothing happens. Yeah.
So it's a shame. It is a shame.
But I think, and I've wanted to talk about this with you for ages, that this gives a great opportunity for anyone that's missing out on, Formula One or whatever, that was so excited for it. Not saying I was too excited for it. I'm not really too bothered, but it always interests me that actually there's a whole another underworld out there of other forms of racing within motorsport that people don't, that's people's careers and livelihoods every weekend. Things like DTM. What was I saying to you earlier? That I flicked on telly the other day and it was on Sky Sports F1, and it was on the Ferrari Challenge I think it was in Italy or somewhere, Spa maybe. But there's so much other racing going on that people forget about, and people that are just new to F1 don't realise that there is these teams. Well, you're going to the Nurburgring 24 hours this weekend, aren't you?
Well, I was going to say, this is quite apt, and from a selfish perspective, I'm kind of glad that Imola's not happening, because I wouldn't have been able to watch it anyway, because I am going with Audi UK to Germany tomorrow, actually, as we're filming this, for the 24 hours of Nurburgring.
Well, I didn't even know it existed. I knew there was 24-hour races of Le Mans. I think I'd heard of it, but I said to you, it's not on the Nordschleife, it's too dangerous. And then we looked it up, and it's a 24-hour Nordschleife race.
It's the full circuit, so it's Nordschleife and GP.
Yeah, but I watched, then literally I said to you the other day, I just thought, I'm very envious actually they're going, because I've got not much planned this weekend, and I thought, I'd just have a look on YouTube at what it's all about and what it's like, and it was quite incredible. There's like 7 different categories. Obviously, they all race at the same time, and there's different starts, but they all start within like 2 minutes of each other, so they're all on track at the same time. So you've got these GT3 cars that are doing 200, and then in the final category there was a 1980s Lancia or something, just cruising, and they're coming around the Nordschleife, doing 210, while this thing's sitting there at 60. I just thought, for 24 hours, you've got to be on it the whole time. It's quite dangerous. I have to say, I'm
gutted you're not coming, because you sound like more about this.
No, it's only because I watched it on YouTube, but because I found it quite interesting.
I wonder what would happen if I just brought you along tomorrow. I don't think. Audi have put me a hotel room. They'd have to make an extra portion of food for you.
Yeah.
We'll next time maybe, but
well, no, I'd almost like you to go actually and tell me, it was all right or whatever, and then maybe we can go again to that, or Le Mans 24. That's a big one that my uncle and my dad's friends go to, Le Mans.
I'll go to that, and then I'll come back, and when we chat next on this podcast, we can talk about it. But I think you make a good point about alternative forms of racing, and it is very appropriate that the F1's not happening this weekend, because now, spectators can be thinking, well, what can I watch instead? And I know for one that there's so many motorsports out there which I would find entertaining to watch, but I don't even know about.
No, but there was one last weekend that I was saw on Brands Hatch, which obviously isn't too far from here, and I used to go there with my dad for the motorbike racing and stuff. I can't remember. I think it was the Challenge GT or something, and one of the teams has got Valentino Rossi driving for them.
Wow.
So he came second, or his team did. There's multiple drivers. They came second, so that brought in a massive
four-wheel racing. Valentino Rossi. Yeah. Wow.
He was in like a Mercedes GT3.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
That brought, obviously, a lot of the fans were all there for him. That brings in other people.
Yeah.
So there's.
It's not really like a.
You probably paid £20, I should imagine, to get into that, and you've got 10-time GP world champion racing a car.
That's the other thing. If we can find out those sort of motorsports that they're wonderful to watch, but they're still quite niche, then it's going to save us so much money. Because if I wanted to go, we did go to Silverstone a couple of years ago. The great year where Verstappen and Hamilton came together at, was it Copse Corner?
I don't know.
Copse, or what's it called?
It was just up from us, wasn't it?
The fast one.
Yeah.
And I think we did general admission, which is the most basic level, and it was probably the best part of 200 quid, especially when you factor in the parking.
We got quite lucky with a deal from one of your friends, actually. We got 3 days for 200 quid.
Did we?
Yeah, we went Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and if you look now, my brother was saying if you look at like the Sunday for just the F1, that's like 150 on its own.
It's crazy.
And
it's
I'm
actually
thinking,
crazy.
I'm not for what I experienced with so many people. It's great, you know, the atmosphere is great, but is it really worth? Because you just I don't know. The racing's it's quite tactical now. Formula One. It's not really like wheel on wheel action, you know.
And when you're actually in the audience, or sorry, if you're at the track,
yeah,
it's great. The atmosphere is cool, but you can't, like, I remember that whole race not knowing who was leading, because you just see cars coming past every now and then. We couldn't see a screen from where we were.
Yeah,
and I remember, and you know, God forbid you try and use the internet when there's 100,000 people. You know, it doesn't work.
Whereas I guess with other types of racing like DTM and stuff, that is more bumper to bumper stuff. So yeah, you might not know what order they're in, but as long as you know who's in the lead and what car they're in, you can probably say that's them, and then all the other cars behind them are kind of there. Whereas with Formula One, you saw a Red Bull and then a Red Bull like a minute later, and you're kind of like, well, who's who?
I have to say, having said that, if you've never been to an F1 race, I still cannot believe it to this day, because that was the first time I'd ever been. The speed at which, like, I know it sounds ridiculous, and yes, of course, F1 cars are fast.
The TV slows it down, doesn't it?
But seriously, if you're standing there and you've got an F1 car coming towards you, and you watch it, it's the change of direction. When they change direction at 160, 170 plus miles an hour, I've never seen anything like it, and I never will. And if you haven't seen that in person, you must.
But also, I think with that, I think I said to you at the time, didn't I, when we were there, I said, I was just amazed. I said, watch. It was practice or something on the Friday, or the qualifying, that on the TV, you know, you see the lap times, you see Verstappen's 3 seconds quicker than Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas, for example. But you actually see in person, you can see the speed, and you can see them going around the corner and say, well, you can just see how much faster the Red Bull is, you know. Whereas on TV, you can't see it. You can see the time, but you don't really see the speed difference until you're there, and you're like, wow, that Haas just takes that corner so much slower than the Red Bull does. And
yeah, for example, at the time, maybe a Red Bull might have been a second a lap quicker than the Mercedes, but what Charlie's saying is that you could tell, you could actually see. Yes. So yeah, there's definitely, it's got merit from a spectator standpoint. However, you know, I think we're better off saving our 200 quid this year, going to the An Audi TT. Yeah, that's something I've always wanted
or a
to
rally.
Go and see.
I really want to go to a rally.
Yeah, I want to be one of those people.
There was one in Wales that I kept looking up, and then I thought I'd love to go to like Norway or somewhere, or like, you know, where there's no, because you're on a rally, I don't think there's much. They don't really care about where you stand. I think you can kind of just go wherever you want.
I think it depends where you go. I'm sure it's becoming ever more safe now, isn't it?
But I think a lot of these forest stages, if you just go in the forest, then
there's rallies in like Bulgaria and stuff where there is basically no health and safety. I would absolutely love to be like, on TikTok I keep seeing these videos of spectators that are sort of like reaching out like this and touching a Citroen C4 rally car as it goes 120 miles an hour in the air past
sideways.
I think mate, let's actually try and get some dates
our list
together.
as well. We've got the Nurburgring, which we might be able to tick off soon. We've got the TT, which I think you need to book that a year in advance. I think it's so getting there and things becomes difficult, but we'll see about that one. And definitely a rally. I think a rally you could almost book last minute, I'm sure. I don't think there's probably no cap on the amount of spectators you can have at a rally.
We're just going to do it, mate.
Yeah.
We're just going to do it. And actually, so on our Nurburgring adventure, the Audi TT, again, back to the Audi TT, that's got a MOT on it, I think, until the 25th of June. And you and I are going to a concert in Hamburg on the 12th of June, I think it is. And we were going to fly out there, but why don't we drive to Hamburg, have our concert, and then on the way home, because Hamburg's I think 4 or 5 hours north of where the Nurburgring is, on our way home, drop into the Green Hell for a few laps.
Yeah, I
mean, I think if I can get the thing serviced, if Audi give it a green light,
or make it, then
let's do it. Won't work out much more. Well, it will actually be a lot more than flying. But let's maybe do it. I don't know. I'm sure you guys would love to see it, but Charlie's never driven around the Nurburgring before. I'm not going to be in the car, but I would love to see it. No, I was thinking about this the other day. Actually, I was thinking I would be I'm not a good passenger as it is.
Yeah.
And you actually have been such an incredible sport, especially when we were doing the R8 stuff in Germany, the top speed runs. You just sat in the passenger seat. I would never do that. But I was thinking, if we go to the Nurburgring, maybe like I do a lap with you next to me and talk you through it.
Yeah.
And then we just swap.
Yeah. I think that's how we're going to have to play it.
Yeah.
It'll be more things like the etiquette on there. I think you're just going to need to guide me on that. I was going to say,
it'd be good to do a passenger lap first so that you get an idea of like, although having said that, I never did I've never done a passenger lap.
I think you'd be fine in the car, with me. I'm not going to throw it in at 100 hoping it sticks.
No.
I'll have a few sighters, I should imagine.
And I guess if you do some of the driving...
car, so...
If you do some of the driving to Germany, then you'll be
I know how the car feels. And
it's an easy car to drive. The only thing you can't really heel and tow it because the pedals are so far apart. But you're not good enough for that anyway.
We'll overcome that when we get to that.
So let's see.
Okay.
Watch this space, everyone, and do please comment below on this video if you're watching it on YouTube, and also you can send me a message on Instagram if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. With whether you think we should take the TT to Germany or if it's just an all-round bad idea.
It's going to end in tears.
Whilst we're talking about cars, as this is a car podcast, it is called All for Wheels after all. There was one thing that came up maybe a week ago in the news that I wanted to just touch on, and I realised we're grazing over a lot of different topics today, but we haven't chatted for a while. Obviously, we all know that EV is the future, or at least that's what the people in suits tell us. And there's this, is it 2030 or 2035?
It's 2030,
right.
But apparently it's just impossible to hit.
Well, I think so, and everywhere I look now, it seems to sort of unofficially just be shifting to 2035 now.
Right.
It's almost like they've realised they've messed up.
Yeah.
2030 is never going to happen, and they sort of just started to say 2035, hoping no one will notice. Anyway, something came in the news the other day with Ferrari basically saying, and they didn't say it like this, but they were basically saying, nah, we're not going to hit that 2030 target. ICE, internal combustion engine cars, we're not going to be done with them until at least 2035.
I didn't read the article as such. I think I saw something somewhere on, maybe I was just on the news or whatever, but I saw that as well, and I found it quite interesting because I don't think they were kind of saying we're not going to hit the target. I think they just basically said we're not willing to do it. We don't want to. They are releasing their first electric car or something in the next few years, but they've basically said we're not going to just stop making all the other cars. Our main market, unfortunately, is drawn in for people that want the combustion engine at the minute, and our business will detrimentally suffer from that if we just go fully electric at the minute. So we're not going to make that decision.
It says here on the website, it says that Ferrari is moving ahead with plans to launch its first electric car in 2025, and according to its CEO, they're on target to be carbon neutral by 2030 and meet their goal. However, they added that with the development of e-fuels moving faster than anticipated, it means ICE, or internal combustion engine, still has a lot to do. So their implication being that, well, hang on, we're not ready to get rid of the internal combustion engine yet.
Well, they're saying there's fuels that are being worked on that actually could end up being more efficient than,
I think,
way more efficient than they are now.
It's all people talk about now is about how, obviously we're never going to hit the target, but I think that is true. And you were telling me off camera earlier about the battery supply thing.
I don't quite understand it all, but I think there's something about how all these other manufacturers, Ford, think maybe Toyota or someone like that, basically, no, it's a Renault or something, I can't remember, who build stuff here in the UK, said they'll never be able to hit, for their UK markets, they'll never be able to hit 2030 because there's just not enough. They can't keep up with the supply for the lithium batteries, or the batteries that you need to basically run the electric cars. So they're saying, well, that's a major problem. If we can't get enough batteries, then how on earth can you expect us to, hit that target? But
are you essentially saying, so say it's Renault, they're saying, right, we sell 10,000 cars a year.
We cannot get 10,000
However,
batteries at the minute.
if we had to switch to battery, we could only make 3,000 cars. Exactly. So we just haven't got enough. Right. It's interesting, isn't it? I think it's an interesting thing to follow. Did I
say to you a few weeks ago that apparently there was someone somewhere saying that there's a theory that car parks as well the laughter will be rebuilt because they can't cope. they won't be able to cope with the amount of weight, because
yes,
electric cars weigh a lot.
Well, on average, they're about 25% heavier than their engine.
So they're saying if everyone in the car park had an electric car, these car parks were built in the 80s, 90s, you know.
Do you think that's heavy. True? Sure.
Well, I think if you had a top floor in a car park, there's suddenly now 25% each car heavier. That's like 700, 900, 10,000% heavier. I don't know how much the percentages would be. Would the infrastructure be able to go?
They always build so much redundancy and tolerance into these things. Even if a car park was
I found it quite funny that someone's actually, that's like the smallest thing that anyone would think about this whole problem. And, you know, that is also a problem, you know. Is there going to be manholes appearing on the road because the cars, there's too much?
If they built a car park in 1950 and the average car weighed a ton, surely, I mean, but now the average car's probably closer to 2. Yeah. So it is double. Yeah. It is funny, isn't it? I was going to make another point as well, but I've forgotten.
It's not that, to be fair, like, there are electric cars that I've seen, like the Porsche Taycan or whatever, and I think that's a great car. You know, I'm not knocking it. My mum's got an electric car, like I've said before. You know, they are nippy little things. Even if she's got an ID3, it's nothing. You know, it's not a Ferrari, but it's still very nippy. You know, I'm not knocking them at all, but I just think obviously they're pushing this thing so much down to us that actually there's so many other things that they've got that play a part in it that it's just not really viable.
That thought of just car parks around the country collapsing the day it turns 2030 just makes me laugh so much.
The new COVID.
That is funny,
car
isn't
park
it?
Collapse.
Oh my goodness, that is funny. Well, I think that's all. There was another hilarious point I'm sure that I was trying to make there, but my mind's gone completely blank.
Combustion engines. No. Anyway.
No, I've lost it. If you're an audio listener, then you would have missed my face of utter confusion for the past 5 seconds. Anyway, I think, you got anything else to add at all?
No, I think we've covered a decent amount of topics today, actually.
But as always, either comment if you're on YouTube or send us a message on Instagram with any suggestions of topics you'd like us to cover going forwards. And, I've got an Audi RSQ8 parked out there, which I've just been delivered this morning, which is what I'm driving to Germany this weekend. So I suggest we go and have a little play in that now, maybe grab something to eat. So, on that then, guys, thank you so much for watching and or listening. If you are on YouTube, we would really appreciate it if you would subscribe, because I think we're about halfway to 1,000 subscribers now. And once we hit 1,000, then we can monetize the videos, which means that, we're more likely to make more podcasts if it's sort of paying for our fuel and our time to be here. So we'd just really appreciate the support. If you could subscribe, that would be incroyable. And on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, I believe you can follow us. But also, really importantly, if you get a second to just leave a rating, that helps the podcast rank as well. So if you could leave a 5-star rating, we would both very much appreciate it. Thanks, Charlie, again for coming down. Yeah. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.